Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the primary weapon, the Afentis. Now in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits. Meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframes using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon built out by itself and let the viewer make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. So the Afentis was suggested to us by commenter Miller is a Hero. That's why we're doing it today. We have the top commenter of the last video, Lapis DT 2970, and the first commenter of the last video, Hey Abelionis. Okay, so the Afentis is a primary spear gun. It's one of those weird spear weapons in the game where when you left click like regular fire, it's going to shoot whatever effect it has. In this case, it's a like a bolt that will embed and then it's going to explode after 0.8 seconds. And then spear guns also have an alternate fire, or for PC, it's the middle click. And you throw it and they usually have some kind of special effect. In this one, for this weapon, it's going to be a group buff. So it's pretty cool. All right. Let's get into the Afentis here. I have two builds for us today. I have a damage build and I have a utility build. Just because the Afentis is very, very good in utility and it's okay in damage. I feel like the utility build might be the more useful build, but I'm going to do both of them regardless. And you could still do the damage build for utility as well. So, all right. So let's go over interesting and special things about the Afentis first. So the Afentis is going to have innate blast on its primary fire's radial attack. So remember, the primary fire will shoot out a bolt. It's going to embed on a target, and after 0.8 seconds, it's going to explode. So you have the normal damage when it hits that target, and then you have that radial attack, which is when it explodes. So you can see here the radial is a lot more damage than the direct attack. And that radial is where that innate blast will be. The weapon is also going to reload 33% of its ammo while it's holstered. That's kind of cool. And the unique trait, I'm going to scroll over it so you guys can read it here, but I'm also going to explain it on my paper that I have here. So when you throw the weapon with your alternate fire, it has to hit a surface. If it hits a dude, it's just going to do some damage. If I scroll down, it'll show you what damage it does if it hits a dude. But when you throw it, you actually want it to like hit a surface because that's when you'll actually get the effect out of it. So when it hits a surface, it's going to create a 5-meter field for 10 seconds, and anyone, you or allies, in that field are going to get a 50% reload speed buff, a 20% fire rate or attack speed buff, 100% ammo maximum, and negative 50% weapon recoil. And while you're in that field, if you kill an enemy, it will extend that buff outside of that field. So as long as you kill an enemy while you're in that field, then you can leave it and maintain that buff. And that buff is 40 seconds. So 40-second long buff. And it doesn't have to be with the Afentis. If you're in that field and you melee attack a dude and kill him, you'll get the buff. If you're in that field and you switch to your secondary weapon and kill him, you'll get that buff. As long as it's a kill in that Afentis field. So that's pretty cool. That is a pretty cool little ability there. Okay, so we're going to go over the mods for the damage build for the Afentis first. We're going to have Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot. We're going to have Argon Scope for critical chance. Now, in this slot, I will normally use a mod called Galvanized Scope over Argon Scope. Because for a lot of weapons, it's not that hard to get headshot kills. I've been playing for a very long time. I'm on keyboard, I'm mouse and keyboard, so like for me, it's very easy on even on hard weapons to get headshot kills. But the Afentis is a special kind of weapon. This is this is a weapon that it's very, very hard to get headshot kills. I feel like if you were like me personally, I'm on the cusp. I probably could use Galvanized Scope and get a little bit more value out of Scope than Argon Scope. But I feel like for the normal player, you would get more value out of Argon Scope over Galvanized Scope because you're not going to be getting enough headshot kills. So to trigger the main effect of Scope, of Galvanized Scope or Argon Scope, all you need is a headshot. A headshot's not that hard to get. Even on the Afentis, it's not that hard to get. Well, I mean, it's a little bit, but it's not terribly hard. But the second effect, which Argon Scope doesn't have a second effect, it's just on a headshot, you get 135 crit. That's nice. Scope, it's 120 crit, so you're hoping that you get more value out of the conditionals, but the conditionals need headshot kills. And so this, you need to be like an above average player, really good at getting headshots. You also need to have understanding of the game and like the difference between like trash and micro trash, because there's different kinds of trash enemies. There are certain trash enemies that you're usually trying to get your conditionals on, like the micro trash, like the trash that's even weaker than the low trash. So there's a lot of like skill-focused things in using Galvanized Scope with the Afentis, and I think most people won't get value out of. So I think it would be disingenuous of me to put Galvanized Scope here and tell people that they should be using this. I think Argon Scope, for the majority of people, will be better than Galvanized Scope. All right, Critical Delay is going to be for critical chance as well. Vital Sense is going to be for critical damage. Hunter Munitions is going to be giving us slash procs on our criticals 30% of the time. Bladed Rounds is going to be for critical damage. There's another mod that is a possibility over this slot. So if you notice, we don't have any fire rate mods. And this is more of a personal preference. I actually like the Afentis with no fire rate mods because it has really poor ammo economy. Even though the Ballistari Might buff will give you basically double your maximum ammo, its maximum ammo is still garbage. So I feel like having a fire rate buff could get you in trouble. Like it could make you want to spam the weapon and then you would be low on ammo, but it does make the weapon feel more comfortable. So I like Bladed Rounds because it makes me shoot slower and be more careful with my shots. But if you want a fire rate mod, Vile Acceleration would go over Bladed Rounds. So your weapon would obviously be weaker per shot, but you might actually get more DPS out of it because you're shooting a lot quicker. So this is a personal preference thing. You know, do you hate the Afentis' really slow fire rate because it is really slow fire rate? Or do you not really mind it and you don't mind like making careful shots with it? In that case, then use Bladed Rounds. If you want it to be more, quicker, use Vile Acceleration. All right. In the next two slots here, we're going to go for Viral because the weapon has innate Blast on the radial. And Blast is either good by itself or with Viral. And so because it has innate Blast, we're just going to go Viral on here with Rhyme Rounds and Malignant Force. On this weapon, you want to use both 60/60s because the weapon does not have great status chance to start off with. So like both 60/60s gets us to about 52%, which it's okay. It's not horrible. But like if you didn't use the two 60/60s and you use like primed cryo rounds, it would do two things. One, it would lower your status chance, so you're producing less statuses. And two, you would almost never get the actual blast on the radial attack, because Viral would be so heavily weighted. So with the two 60/60s, they're about even there. So that's why I used both of them there. Okay, Exilus slot. There's two options. There's Ammo Drum, and then there's Cautious Shot. So the weapon does have a 3-meter radial range. So you can self-stagger yourself. So Cautious Shot is very good because of that. And even though like this is kind of a weapon that you want to make accurate headshots with, it's not necessarily a medium or long range weapon. You're usually making those accurate headshots at close, maybe medium ranges. And so like there's a big potential to self-stagger yourself. So Cautious Shot is very, very good. Of course, if you're using a Warframe that has stagger immunity, you don't need Cautious Shot, and then you could just use Ammo Drum. Now, Ammo drum, let's talk about ammo drum and why I like it, because there's also a case to be made where you don't need ammo drum. So Ballistari Might, the actual trait you get, gives you 100% more max ammo. It basically gives you the ammo drum effect. So why do you need another ammo drum on top of it? It's because the weapon starts off very weak because you don't have conditionals, right? You don't have your Merciless fully stacked. And so this morning when I was testing the Afentis, like almost every single game without ammo drum, because this was like the last thing I put on because I knew it wasn't really going to affect the actual damage numbers. But almost every single game on testing, I needed to use an ammo pad like in the first 30 seconds because I didn't have my conditionals up enough. And so it wasn't doing enough damage to get a lot of kills like right off the bat. And so I was using an ammo pad like every single mission. If you don't mind that, then you don't need to use ammo drum. You could use something else. Just make sure you're bringing ammo pads in there with you. But if that kind of irks you that you have to use an ammo pad to use this friggin' weapon, then put ammo drum on. That's why I recommend it. Once your Ballistari Might kicks in, and once you're at your full conditionals of Primary Merciless, you really don't need ammo drum because then you are doing enough damage to produce enough ammo for yourself. But just the initial ramp up really, really sucks without ammo drum. So that's why I suggest it. Okay, and in the Arcane slot, we're going to be using Primary Merciless. Primary Merciless is a 360% flat damage increase and a 30% reload speed. All right, that is the damage build for the Afentis. Now I want to go over the utility build for the Afentis. So the damage build is assuming that you want the buff, the Ballistari Might buff, but you also want to use the Afentis as an actual damage weapon. So this is how you would build it out. The utility build is assuming you don't want to use the Afentis as an actual weapon. You're like, the Afentis sucks. I don't want to use that friggin' thing, but I really want that Ballistari buff because that buff's pretty, sexy maybe for whatever other weapon you're using. And so in that case, you would use the utility build. The utility build is a ZDPS, 0 DPS build. You're only using it to activate the Ballistari Might buff. Okay. So the first thing you notice is we have 5 fire rate mods. That's right, count them, 5 fire rate mods. In fact, if you have in Riven, you could even have a 6th one for fire rate, and it would make it even better. So I have Prime Shred because it's a login reward, and I've been playing a while, so I have it. But if you don't have Prime Shred, just use regular Shred. It'll give you 30% fire rate. Speed Trigger for 60% fire rate. Vigilante Fervor for 45% fire rate. And Vile Acceleration for 90% fire rate. Spring-loaded chamber for fire rate that unfortunately only triggers after you throw the spear, but if for some reason like it hit an enemy and you need to like rethrow it, you'll get the extra fire rate on the second throw. So why are we going all fire rate on this? It's because the animation of you like pulling your hand back and throwing your spear is based on fire rate. So by having crazy fire rate mods on here, it's like instant. There's like almost no animation. You press your middle mouse button and the thing comes shooting out of your character. That's basically what happens. Without that, you'll see when on the damage build where I don't have any fire rate that it is quite slow when I press my middle mouse button for him to throw the spear. It is a little bit slow. But the utility build, not so much. And yeah, we're going to throw Amalgam Serration on here for a little bit more sprint speed. You don't really need that, but why the hell not, Terminal velocity, because it's going to make your little spear. So first, you're going to be throwing it super fast, and now the actual speed of it's going to be really fast. So that's the whole purpose of the utility build here, is just to get that little spear out fast, so you could switch back to maybe meleeing or secondary shooting, and get the Afentis out of your friggin' hands. So there's not a arcane that super combos. You can go with Primary Merciless for more reload speed, but just remember the weapon is going to reload itself when you holster it, so not a big point to it. The other 2 mod slots, same thing. You can go at reload speed, but there's not a huge point because the weapon's going to like reload itself anyway. So not, you can pick whatever you want here. If you want to maybe throw some statuses, although it's not going to do statuses when it hits like a surface, only when it hits something. So I don't know. You can just leave these empty basically. Okay. What I want to do now is I want to go into the Simulacrum. I'm just going to show the Afentis off real quick, just to showcase it, because it's a weird weapon. It's not a weapon that I could just kind of explain and think that everyone's going to understand it. You have to kind of see it. You have to see it to believe it. So let's get in here. All right, what am I on? Am I on my utility build or on my... let me go on the damage build first, just so you can see how slow it is to throw that spear. All right, so I'm going to like throw the spear like right there. Boop. And you see that little that field there? All I have to do is I have to be in that field. I have to kill something. Doesn't matter if it's my secondary, my melee, or this weapon that I get a kill with. And then it'll activate that buff for me outside of the field. I'm still going to get that buff while I'm in the field. But getting a kill while I'm in here will let me leave the field and maintain that buff. All right. So this is the damage build. This is how fast it's going to fire. Pretty friggin' slow. That's why I'm saying if you want to use Vial Acceleration over bladed rounds, you can. It's up to you. It's kind of a personal preference thing. Also, note how quick it is to throw the spear. Okay, now we're going to switch to utility build here, and we'll show the same thing. All right, so we're going to throw the spear. See, almost instant. So that's what fire rate does. It speeds up that stupid like animation of you pulling your arm back. There's not a big reason to throw multiple spears because you can only have one of these fields out at a time. But if for some reason you screwed up, like maybe you did hit an enemy, because if this hits an enemy, it's not going to create a field. Let me just spawn an enemy in real quick. If you hit an enemy, it's just going to like knock the dude back and do some damage. But there's like no field that generates. So if you try to throw this on the ground, but it like accidentally hits a dude in the leg like that, it's not going to create a field. So for the utility build, you could put like primary merciless and maybe some reload speed mods. Just in the off chance you screw up, you can like quickly throw a second one out. You know, you can go bam, throw a second one out, and it'll be quicker than it was just there. So that's the Afentis. Let me go back to my orbiter here now that we've kind of showed that. I'm going to show this off on the damage build. The utility build, there's no reason for me to really show that off in game. It's not really going to do anything because it's a ZDPS build. But I'm going to show the damage build off for the Afentis in game, 10 minutes. Steel Path Mott. I'm going to be doing this on a big dumb Anaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance. No mods or arcanes on the Anaros that increase weapon performance. And with a pet with no sentinel weapon and no mods on the pet that increase weapon performance. Okay, let's get in to Mott and show this Afentis off. This is Styanax's weapon that he came out with.
These foes deserve your respect. Honor them with quick.
See how my ammo pool is 22? I think without ammo drum, I think it's 12, the ammo pool. So you get 4 in the chamber, and then you get 12.
Life support has been cut off. They're trying to choke you out. Hold on.
All right, I'm going to cast my 3 for armor and status immunity, and that's the last thing I'll be pressing. Get the Ballistari buff up. That's the whole point of this weapon. Why am I not showing it? What are you doing, Salt? Prime Fulmination is also an option, but just understand the weapon only has 3 meters of base range. So, like, it doesn't actually have a huge base range. So even like primed fulmination only gives you like a little bit over 1 more meter of range. So it's an option. I would probably put it over like bladed rounds if you really wanted it, but I don't think it's going to add too much to the weapon because it's only 3 meter to start with. Not like something like the Kuva Brahma where you're adding like 4 meters by putting something like that on the weapon. Let me see how many times I can forget to actually activate the Ballistari Might buff. See, once you're rocking and rolling, you don't really need ammo drum. It's really only for the initial. So it's just that on my testing, I was almost always using an ammo pad like in the first 30 seconds because of it. So, yeah, it's kind of up to you. Cautious Shot is really nice, though. If you don't have a way to reduce self-stagger, I'd probably say Cautious Shot. We're going to have to be going for a life support pretty soon here. Where are they? They're over here in this room. Let's hit a few of them. This is not the quickest killing weapon, unfortunately. Now, if you put Vial Acceleration instead of Bladed Rounds, you could possibly have a much faster killing weapon. You just have to be careful you don't go crazy with spamming shots, because you may run out of ammo in that case. We have Malice. He's the worst one of them, of course. Let's get some more status immunity on ourselves. Did I set the mag bubble on me? I couldn't tell. There he is. Alright, Salt. It's a 40-second buff. It shouldn't be that hard to remember to press it every 40 seconds.
When you need it, extraction is ready.
Maybe the Prime version will have a little bit of fire rate built in. That would be nice. Or if you got a Riven with fire rate where you can kind of compress some of your mod slots, might be nice. Like fire rate and crit damage, and then you can just take off later rounds and put it there, and kind of get both of them, both best of both worlds.
You are running out of time. Consider
I know,
extraction.
Lotus. This is not the quickest killing weapon here. Add some over here. I'm gonna head to this room, chase some life supports. Yeah, I think the utility build is the one that is probably the more serious build. The damage build, like you could build out the damage build and you could still like use the Bastari buff on it. I just feel like the utility build is probably more where it's at. And then just mixing it with a strong secondary or melee weapon. Probably more secondary. The melee weapons, I think they only get the 20 attack speed. I don't think like ammo max wouldn't affect them. Reload speed wouldn't affect them. Try to figure out what secondary may benefit the most from, because it's only a 20% fire rate buff, so it's not really like, the fire rate's nice, but it's not something that you would go crazy just to do a 20% fire rate buff. But the reload speed and the max ammo is pretty nice. I'm wondering like what secondary weapon might benefit the most with 50% reload and 100% ammo max. Maybe like the old Angstrom before it was an Incarnon. Now you don't need it anymore with the Incarnon. Like a secondary weapon with poor ammo economy, basically. There's probably a bunch of them. I just can't think of them off the top of my head right now.
The Tenno come to scavenge and desecrate this sacred realm.
Alright, we're almost at 10 minutes. Let's see what this little guy got to. I don't have a lot of faith. I'm hoping it at least got to 600 so we can say it beat the Hema from yesterday, but I'm not confident in that. Alright, let's
Critical life support levels.
get to extraction.
Best option.
Alright, let's see. Let's see. Oh, 400. Even less than 400. I mean, this is technically a Steel Path viable weapon. It's just not a very good Steel Path viable weapon. It's a weapon, you know, it's a weapon in the game. Again, I think the utility build is probably more where it's at. Building it for damage, you know, it's okay. You maybe could have increased that kill per minute number by adding Vile Acceleration instead of bladed rounds, but it probably wouldn't have been that much of a difference. So, I think the utility build is probably the stronger one for Steel Path Endurance. Like, I don't think I would want to take that into a Steel Path Endurance and, like, try to compete with, like, Sarens and stuff. I think that would be a little bit painful. So, yeah, that's the Afentis. Probably better for a utility setup. I think if you're going to build it for utility, it's worth to build it. Again, I can't think, right, like off the top of my head, like what secondary would be the best with it. Let me know if you can think of one. Or melee, I guess, does, you know, combo with melees too. But I can't think off the top of my head like what combo would be best with it. But I do think the utility build is where it is for Steel Path Endurance. I think the damage build is a bit too slow. You could possibly be increasing that kill per minute with Vile Acceleration, but it's still going to be too slow to compete with other weapons or Warframes in the game. So if you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.